Peter, it's been about 10 years since you introduced the concept of creating shared value at Nestle. You've always said it's part of Nestle's DNA. But how have things changed by making this explicit?
Yeah, I think one has to make a big difference between the way a company has been behaving for 150 years, which in its essence was creating value both for society and for its shareholders, and the introduction of the creating shared value principle as a strategy tool for a company. I think with creating shared value, we have been introducing a strategy tool that allows you consciously targeting of activities where a company can optimize both the creation of value for its shareholders and the creation of value for the society. So it's an optimization tool if it is rightly applied to.
And what are some of the best examples at Nestle that you think of?
Well, if I think in general terms, I would say our milk districts were definitely, both in the past but also at present, a wonderful example. We would not have been able to become the world-leading milk company if we had not found a way to establish milk districts in developing parts of the world. I think what we are doing, for example, with Nespresso in our AAA campaign is a very good example. And if you allow me perhaps to dwell a little bit there.
Sure.
Because what you can see there is that we are really using creating shared value in order to even increase the value for shareholders. You see, one of the big differentiations, when you have, as Nespresso, we have more than 130 of competitors out there. One of the big differentiations is the Nespresso AAA supply agreement that we have with this shared value. This allows us to be the first company to offer Cuban coffee in the United States. It's not now, as you can see, the issue of a capsule and the Nespresso system. It is a fact that by developing coffee in Cuba and then bringing it to the United States, you could create a competitive advantage that nobody of your competitors can have. This is creating shared value at its very, very best.
So it's really in the linkage between the societal impact and the business benefit that goes back to the shareholders of the company that you see the distinction of shared value.
Yeah, I mean, creating shared value is consciously looking for strategies, business strategies, which are optimizing the creation of value of shareholder and society. This demands a little bit more than just, putting activities into a certain squadron and saying, now it is creating shared value. That's not good enough for me. The basic idea was it's a business strategy that gives you a long-term competitive advantage. I mean, it allows us again to concentrate and on some issues we always have, as you know, at Nestle, we have been identifying basically nutrition, rural development, and water as our three primary focuses, and to which we have added lately the youth initiative, which I think is extremely important.
As other companies adopt this idea, does that please you, or does that undermine the distinctiveness of Nestle's own competitive positioning?
No, on the contrary. I mean, from the very outset, I have said we want this not to be a marketing gimmick for Nestle. I think the concept is much too precious to be kept just for one company. I'm absolutely convinced that this is a way of creating value from the private sector, from the business sector, that is so important that the more companies they can share, the better it will be.
Nestle itself has recently re-articulated its purpose as enhancing quality of life and contributing to a healthier future. How do you see this purpose helping to guide the business and continue to reinforce and extend the concept of creating shared value at Nestle?
Yeah, I would say I was very happy with the establishment of the purpose, because I think it is expressing in very few words a lot of emotion about the essence of our company. I'm sure that if Henri Nestlé would be reading these words, he would be fully in agreement with them, because that's what he was doing from the very beginning. So I feel that the purpose and the values, this is very motivating for our people internally. It's not only a positioning externally, it's also very important for the social cohesion internally. And I think it is important that we keep some of those principles that we have laid out in the past and that have become like part of our DNA, if you want. And one of those principles, of course, was also creating shared value.
So beneath that statement of purpose, the question of how Nestle goes about improving quality of life, or how Nestle contributes to creating a healthier future, and in doing so improves the performance to its own shareholders. It's that unpacking of the purpose that you think Nestle needs to keep focused on.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. You still need to have some guiding principles in how to deliver on the purpose and on the values. I give you one example. I still believe that the principle that at Nestle, people, products, and brands should have always a priority over systems is a fundamental principle.
I have one last question, which is, as you are stepping back from your role at Nestle, how do you help ensure that the concept of creating shared value stays strong at Nestle?
Well, there's a limit. When I'm stepping back, and it will be in the hand of the new management. And I think we have been discussing at board level where the responsibility for the long-term strategy of the group resides. We have been discussing creating shared value, and there is an understanding that Nestle wants to continuously adhere to it. It's something which is very strong to my heart. It's something which I strongly believe makes a huge difference in the way how a company is being run, how a company is being perceived finally by society. And the difference is that in the first case, you buy your license to operate by paying with an absolution. In the second one, you are creating your license to operate every single day with every single business decision. And I think this is a more long-term sustainable way to run a business.